So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our ABANSE Negrense Tribes Toward Food Security and Avian Influenza Prevention Seminar Series. So, I'm your host. I'm Dr. Neil Ningal, your food security lead of Negros Occidental. So, nga ginahiwat naton sining buluhaton subong because nakabalo kita na Negros Occidental has grown to become one of the top poultry producing province in the nation, with around 8 billion poultry industry diri sa probinsya. It is made up of 4 billion broiler and native chicken, 3 billion game fowl, and 1 billion layer and duck sector. So the province pledged that it will continue to lead the nation in producing these goods and to safeguard industry from the threat of diseases. Amo ini nga ginhiwat naton ini nga mga hilikoton. So ini ginadala sa inyo sang pagkaon ni Grosanon in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture, Region 6, Provincial Veterinary Office, Public Information Office, Information and Communication Technology Department, and Philippine College of Poultry Practitioner. Of course, upod man naton diri ang Radyo Negrense kag Radyo Moscovado Sweet FM nga amo ini sila ang naga-live subong sa aton. And of course, hindi man ini madayong ko tungod sa mga partner pa naton in the industry, especially the Ariela Marketing and Excellence Poultry and Livestock Specialist. So without further ado, let's start our program. So let's start with a prayer, the Negros hymn and the pambansang awit facilitate sa aton nga PIO, and it will follow by the message from our Provincial Veterinary Officer, Dr. Limana. Thank you.
Lord Jesus, the earth is yours. Thank you for giving us this beautiful environment. Thank you for sharing with us the water, air, land, trees, birds, and every other living and non-living things. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to see the wonderful creations you made. Lord, forgive us in our neglect of your creation, the choking smell and disgusting sight of our pollution, the damage done by careless habits, and our indifference to future generations. Lord, keep us mindful of how precious the environment is. Help us to amend our lives. Teach us to be responsible stewards of this world and to seek the common good. May you continue to provide us wisdom to understand and value Earth's creation. Grant us serenity and provide us blessings through the goods and needs that the environment can give. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Sa manlulupin, di kapasi Mayong aga sa tanan. Today we are discussing avian influenza or bird flu. Last week nagtakol kita sa African Swine Fever. So gina-discuss gid nato ni mga transboundary diseases kay tungod gina-proteksyonan gid nato ng ato na poultry in livestock industry diri sa Negros, no. Kay ang ato na probinsya when it comes sa regional level, we are number 1 when it comes sa broiler, no. Nagat 3 million kita, no. Sa native chicken naman, number 1 kita sa Western Visayas as well as sa national level. Naga 4.3 million kita, no, sa aton nga population. This includes ang aton nga fighting cocks, no, kag sa aton nga mga native chicken. Also, we are number 2 when it comes sa layers sa Western Visayas. So, amo ni siya nga nag-seminar kita ka nagapahibalo sa inyo nga kung ano ning mga balatian nga makaapekto sa aton nga poultry industry. Kay amo ni siya ang aton nga industriya nga nagalabot sa 8 billion pesos, no. So dapat proteksyonan din naton ang aton nga palangabuhian kag ang aton nga pagkaon, no. Kay kung maguba ang aton nga poultry livestock industry, ang aton nga food security maapektuhan. Gani gina-invite kamo sa pagpamati sa aton nga seminar today. This is only half day, no. So good luck and God bless us all.
Okay, thank you, Doc Ada, for your message. So without further ado, let's proceed with our first presenter. So our first presenter is a UP scientist and UP professor, Dr. Dennis O'Malley, who will going to discuss the global updates of H5N1, systemic review of epidemiology, prevention, and control of this emerging variant strain. Doc?
Good day, everyone. First and foremost, we would like to congratulate Doc Esme San Pedro, Doc Jun Romo, Dean Noel Lumbo, and PCPP for the very successful organization of this important event. Thank you very much for the invitation to present a topic entitled Global Updates on H5N1 HPAI, with particular emphasis on the systematic review of epidemiology, prevention, and control of emerging variant strains. To be able to understand the latest on HPAI, it is very important to go back in time. And apologies sa ating ibang viewers dahil malamang ay napanood na natin yung mga first few slides ng presentation na ito. But these slides are important foundations to be able to have a complete picture and understand where are we right now and where are we possibly going. Now, as we all know, avian influenza is a very old disease. It was first reported in 1878 as foul plague and described as a respiratory disease causing high mortality in chickens. Then something happened in 1997 And because of that, H5N1 became the most important animal disease of the 21st century. And that is the occurrence of the 1918 flu pandemic, or also known as the Spanish flu, wherein during this historic event, around 500 million people got infected with the virus, which resulted to around 100 million deaths, or a total of 6% of the total human population at that time. And through molecular medicine, the dynamics of flu pandemic in humans were elucidated. After the Spanish flu, there was the Asian flu in 1957, then the Hong Kong flu in 1968, followed by the Russian flu and the swine flu. Through genetic sequencing of historical samples, interestingly, it was found out that the Spanish flu probably started as a bird flu virus, specifically an H5N1, that was able to cross the species barrier and was transmitted to humans. Then, interestingly, the Asian flu is actually the H5N1 virus, or the Spanish flu, that reassorted with another bird flu virus in the form of H2N2. And the Hong Kong flu is actually the Asian influenza virus that reassorted with another bird flu virus, which is an H3. And because of that, authorities all over the world are predicting that the next flu pandemic could be an H3, an H2, or an H1 virus that might reassort with another bird flu virus. And because of that, experts around the world are calling the 1918 H1 influenza as the mother of all flu pandemics. Then let us discuss the notable bird flu outbreaks in poultry. No? So from 1959, when bird flu or avian influenza was first termed scientifically, there are around 44 notable viral HPI lineages that were reported in poultry. Except for these three, almost all of these cases in poultry were controlled by stamping out or stamping out in combination with vaccination. So among the three, no, so at present, the H7N9 is a China problem, so limited to China. Itong H7N3 is limited to Mexico. But this outbreak in 1996, which initially started as H5N1, and right now we call it as H5NX, is a global problem and ongoing pa rin at this time period. And for today, we will be focusing on this particular outbreak. So in 1996 in Guangdong, a progenitor virus named Goose Guangdong 196 was first detected in a flock of goose that exhibited around 40% mortality. 1 year after, an H5N1 virus that descended from the Goose Guangdong was detected in chicken flocks, no, with high mortality in Hong Kong. And in the same year, 18 human cases of H5N1 was reported in Hong Kong with a total of 6 mortalities or 33% case fatality rate. And because of this notable event, experts all over the world concluded that H5N1 could be the next human flu pandemic, and it became the poster boy of major media and news magazines worldwide. And as was explained a while ago, the Spanish flu is an H1, the Asian flu is an H2, and the Hong Kong flu is an H3, and suddenly we have an H5 virus. So all along, no, so the entire human race has no exposure to an H5. So if this virus will have a sustained human-to-human transmission, then as predicted, no, it could start a new flu pandemic. And from China and Hong Kong in 1996 and 1997, the H5N1 virus was detected in South Korea, Taiwan, and several countries in Southeast Asia from 2003 to 2006 during the so-called Asian HPI episodic. Because of the poor biosecurity as well as the magnitude of the live bird market and the significant duck population in Southeast Asia, unfortunately, H5N1 became endemic in this region. And through the annual migration of wild birds, the H5N1 virus was spread to other parts of the world, particularly in Europe and North America. But because in these countries, biosecurity is at optimum and very good, these outbreaks were sporadic and were controlled through eradication and stamping out. Unfortunately, in the Middle East and Africa, where the level of biosecurity is comparable to Southeast Asia, H5N1 became endemic as well. At present, these regions, Southeast Asia, Far East Asia, particularly China, Middle East, and Africa, have become the reservoir of H5N1 virus. And while the virus was spreading across the world, as seen in this diagram, the H5N1 virus underwent several mutations through combinations of antigenic drift and reassortment, resulting to the generation of different clades and genotypes with different subtypes. From the original goose guangdong, represented as G0, we are now at the 5th order clade, and among this clade, the most important to date is the clade 2.3.4.4 HPAI. So we will be focusing on the clade 2.3.4.4 HPAI. From 1996 to present, if we will plot all the cases of bird flu in poultry, it can be stated that the H5N1 outbreak had 5 major peaks or waves, which can be further subdivided into 2 general periods. We have the classic H5N1, represented by clade 2.2 and 2.3 before 2013. Then in 2013 onwards, we had the emergence of the H5NX, or the clade 2.3.4 viruses. Bali, for the H5NX, the H5 is the same as the classic H5N1. However, then came from different bird flu virus, no? So through reassortment. So notable among the H5N6 was the H5N6 that was responsible for the 2017 outbreak in Pampanga. The H5N8 was responsible in the biggest outbreak of bird flu in Europe in 2020. And right now, we have an ongoing global outbreak of H5N6, H5N1. Take note that H5N6 AIBs are becoming less pathogenic in birds, while some strains such as the H5N6 retain their lethal characteristics in humans. Now, let us discuss the evolution of the H5N6 AIB, or also known as the clade 2.3.4 avian influenza. So originally, this clade has 4 groups, Group A and Group B, also known as H5N8, and Group C and Group D, also known as H5N6. H5N8 first originated in China, as we can see in the blue and red arrows, which then spread to Siberia, to Europe, and then to Middle East, particularly in Egypt and Africa. While H5N6 originated in China in 2014, then spread to East Asia and Southeast Asia, including the Philippines in 2017. Then from then on, clade 2.3.4.4 diversified further, leading to the emergence of novel groups such as Group E, F, G, and H. With regards to the current H5N1 outbreak, we will be focusing our discussion on the Group B, H5N8. As mentioned, so from the Middle East, particularly in Egypt and Africa, the virus was detected in Eurasia in 2020, and then the Netherlands in 2021. And the H5N8 virus underwent further reassortment, which led to the emergence of 3 major H5N8 subtypes. The original clade 2.3.4.4b H5N8, then clade 2.3.4.4b H5N5, And then we have the clade 2.3.4.4b, H5N1. Take note that from October 2020 to September 2021, H5N8 was the dominant virus. However, from October 2021 to present, there was a shift in cases, no? And H5N1 became the dominant virus. So from this point onwards, we will be focusing on the H5N1 clade 2.3.4.4b. The clade 2.3.4.4b H5N1 was first detected in the Netherlands and Italy, and its genetic constellation is quite unique because, as we can see, no, so majority of its genes were derived from low-path AI viruses from wild birds in Eurasia. However, yung backbone nito, yung H5 niya and matrix, no, ay nanggaling dito sa virus na ito, no, Eurasian region, Netherlands 1, 2020, like backbone. While the rest, yung green, ay from different low-path AI from wild birds in Eurasia. As a consequence, this H5N1 was observed to have a wider range of detection and sustained maintenance in wild and resident birds in Europe and in Eurasia. And because of the magnitude of wild bird infection, this H5N1 spread rapidly in Europe. So from Netherlands, Italy, kumalat siya sa Europe, then in some parts of Africa and Asia, including the United States of America. And take note, in a very short period of time, no? And this H5N1 virus was responsible for the most serious damage of HPI to wildlife in Israel in December 2021. In the same month, Italy became the worst affected country in Europe. And this virus was also responsible for the worst outbreak of AIB in the history of Northern Ireland. Furthermore, this virus was responsible for the biggest ever outbreak of bird flu in the history of Great Britain, and worst bird flu outbreak in the history of Spain, and the worst bird flu outbreak in the history of France. And starting this March 2022, this virus was also detected in the US and was responsible for the second biggest outbreak of bird flu in their country, wherein 45 out of 50 states in the US were infected. And unfortunately, this virus is also responsible for the worst outbreak of bird flu virus in the Philippines. Some notable notes on clade 2.3.4.4b H5N1. So as mentioned, starting October 2021, nagkaroon ng shift ng cases, no, from H5N8 naging H5N1. So there was passing of the baton. And interestingly, no, so actually that H5N1 is actually an H5N8 pa rin, no, that recombined with LPI viruses. So si H5N8 underwent major mutations, giving rise to several H5NX. Sa Germany alone, aside from H5N1 and H5N5 that we explained a while ago, meron na ring H5N3 and H5N4 and several genotypes ng H5N8. Now, where are we going? Interesting to note na as of the moment, itong si H5N1 ay continuous na nag-undergo ng several mutations. At present, ay meron na siyang 16 subgenotypes. So from G1, no? So meron ng G16. And furthermore, upon further genetic sequencing, it was observed na itong si H5N1 is actually a reassortant of 5 different viruses. The backbone is from the Eurasian region. Ito yung Eurasian region, which is a species ng duck. And some of the component proteins, no? Itong si B2 and NP genes ay nanggaling kay Gadwall, Shani, H3N-like virus, and the rest ay nanggaling sa other duck species. So predominantly, yung genetic cancellation niya ay galing sa mga viruses na nanggaling sa duck. and different species of ducks. At present, again, meron 16 genotypes na na-detect, and yung most prevalent ay si G1. In Asia, aside from G1, present na rin si G7 and G14, plus in China ay meron ng G9 and G10. So it's not unlikely that in the coming years, and because of the magnitude of the current outbreak, ay from 5th order clade, then magkaroon na tayo ng 6th order clade. So from clade 2.3.4.4b, baka meron ng 2.3.4.4b point something in the near future. So some notes on the clinical profile. Because majority of the components of the current H5N1 ay from low-path AI viruses, medyo different yung kanyang profile as compared to the classic H5N1 noong early 2000. No? So in Italy, which was the worst affected country in 2021, they observed cases ng silent infection sa broilers. No? So this is an example farm, so 2 flocks, no? So 60 days old, 57 na harvest. This was the time na detect yung bird flu through sampling, time of investigation, but interestingly, halos walang mortality, no? So in this study, so in their investigation, 24 out of 230 or 10.4% of cases ng H5N1 in broilers I observed to have the absence of clinical signs, and furthermore, ay wala ring mortality. And interestingly, upon lab testing, no, so negative siya sa ELISA, and yung mga kinuwang sample sa live birds at tinest for PCR, no, yung tracheal and cloacal swabs from the live birds were also negative in the lab test. However, yung mga lab results from dead birds, yun yung mga positive, but very low titers yung na-detect dun sa mga positive na dead birds. And from their investigation on 24 out of 230 flocks, ito yung kanilang conclusion. Samples originating from dead birds resulted a more rapid and sensitive tool for the early detection of clade 2.3.4.4b H5N1 infection in the broiler sector. And based on their findings, the recommendation, no, aside sa live birds, kinukuha yung sample, so they recommended na dapat merong weekly pool sampling of dead birds or bucket sampling. Para in case mag-negative sa mga live birds, may bird flu, chances are baka ma-detect yung virus sa mga dead birds. Another notable differences nitong current H5N1 nito ay ang kanyang profile sa pigeons. No? So all along since 1997, pigeons and doves were not recognized to be part of the AI epidemiology despite the increasing cases of AI in wild birds. The reason is something to do with the receptors. No? So as we all know, bird flu, ang kanyang preferred receptor yung alpha-2,3 na sialic acid. And this alpha-2,3 kakaunti lang sa pigeons. And in the pigeon, they are located deep in the lower respiratory tract. So as we can see in this picture, no, so yung mga pula, no, so halos negative yung receptors dito sa pigeons. However, because of the current magnitude ng wild bird infection ng current H5N1, pigeon cases are starting to be reported worldwide, especially in Europe. And it was concluded that this current H5N1 ay currently ongoing adaptation sa pigeons, kaya nagkakaroon ng mga cases both in wild and domestic pigeons, such as in this case report. Now, in terms of gross lesions, no, so for chickens and ducks, as a general guide, the predominant lesions of this current strain of H5N1 are as follows. So externally, nandiyan yung cyanosis. But internally, we can see pancreatic necrosis, such as in this picture. Splenic necrosis, in this picture. Petechial hemorrhages, especially in the peritoneum. Petechial hemorrhages in the proventriculus. And take note, no, especially in ducks and in some chickens, no, we can see hydropericardium and ascites. So basically, para siyang ND na merong hydropericardium and ascites. So, but nonetheless, walang halos pathognomonic lesions for this particular strain. So laboratory analysis is still important for confirmation. Based on all the data that we presented, let us now discuss the topic on where are we possibly going. The great thing about HPAI is that this virus is very well studied. Its prevalence across time periods and places are already carefully analyzed. And from this data, no, global data, it can be predicted na dahil sa association niya sa wild migration patterns, meron tayong seasonal and temporal prevalence ng bird flu. At the breeding site, particularly Eurasia, Alaska, and Siberia, HPI cases normally peaks during August to September after the breeding season during the autumn migration because of the high number of juvenile birds with naive immune system as well as the close contact among the birds in the breeding areas. While at the migration site, like Candaba swamp in the Philippines, theoretically, no, so prevalence of HPI will be at the highest during the months of February to April during the spring migration when migratory birds are at peak in the Philippines or in these migration areas. So in theory, during the autumn migration, bird flu viruses are introduced by wild birds, especially in migratory areas. No, example, Ikandamba swamp, and then due to commingling of birds with domestic ducks, no, these are spread in other areas. Now, technically, cases should decrease from April to October, as we can see in this diagram. However, in case may increase, no, in case may anomaly, then it's highly likely na meron tayong lateral spread due to movement of infected poultry. Kasi technically, wala ng mga migratory birds during this period. And in case there will be no effective intervention or we will just let the virus behave according to its natural behavior, and because magdadatingan na yung mga wild birds this September, and in case continuous pa rin yung movement ng ating mga infected poultry, then theoretically, no, so based on this diagram, bird flu cases could potentially further escalate if no effective intervention will be put in place. And the good thing with bird flu viruses ay may mga mathematical models na develop. Same with COVID, there are several mathematical models available to predict the possible spread of infection. And among these models, yung pinakamadaling gamitin is si SIR model. But yun nga lang, for these models to be useful, napakaraming variables and assumptions na kailangan natin gawin. In other countries, they can use these models kasi complete yung kanilang mga epidemiological data. But in general, no, so in general, assuming a low infection transmission rate in consideration of, for example, H5N1 yung ating pina-forecast, under a do-nothing scenario, wala tayong gagawin, we will just let the virus behave according to its natural behavior at walang intervention based on the model. No? So peak of cases in a bird population will be observed around 40 days. And then continuous iyan until ma-infect yung buong flock at maubos yung lahat ng birds depende sa mortality rate. So critical yung 40 days. On another note, sa another side of the equation, using incubation period, the incubation period of bird flu is 3 to 14 days. For regulatory, in-extend yan ng 21 days, no, safety margin. So OIA manual or sa USDA or FAO manual, yung bilangan normally ay 2 times incubation period, which is 42 days, or 3 times incubation period, which is 63 days. So in short, altogether, anong ibig sabihin niya, no? So in case may bird flu sa farm or sa area, in a do nothing scenario, within 42 days ay dapat magpakita ng signs yung mga cases na iyon doon sa farm. No? And kung walang intervention na gagawin, so ito yung ating general guide na ginagamit sa ating personal na practice. So suppose the index case was infected in December, and as again, in a do nothing scenario, using this mathematical model in this incubation period, suppose the index case was infected in December, so yung clinical signs nung infected flock should show around February 2022. And in a do nothing scenario, no, so there could be cluster of cases or farm to farm transmission around March 2022. Then from the index case, in case biosecurity is not good, then accidentally, unfortunately, may mga infected birds or fomites na nag-transmit ng virus into another farm or area. So March, so that farm will show clinical signs around May, and magkakaroon na ng mga cluster of cases again, kung hindi maganda yung biosecurity around June. And suppose from these infected clusters ay may nakapunta sa ibang area ng June, so magpipik yan ng September. And again, September to April is very important because of the wild bird migration. So in case there are active cases in the north, then sasabayan ng wild bird migration, yung mga viruses that could be carried by wild birds ay most probably magpapakita yan ng January to February. So in short, in the next few months, at least at the farm level, we really need to secure and beef up our biosecurity because the risks are there, especially in this coming migration season. Another important note, it is well known that HPA outbreaks come in waves. There's always a first wave, followed by second wave, and so on. And palit ng palit yung damage. No? So this is an example of initial cases of H5N1 in Vietnam. So suppose that the first wave will theoretically peak around November to January because of the arrival of the migratory birds. So when will be the second wave and succeeding waves? It's quite difficult to forecast, no? But again, we have to always be prepared because with the big outbreak, laging may second wave, third wave, and so on. And it is well known that birds from the family Anatidae or waterfowls and Laridae, seabirds and gulls are the reservoirs of AI, so they can carry the virus without showing clinical signs. And similar to African swine fever, no? Yung counterpart ng swill feeding sa ASF ay commingling ng ducks sa domestic poultry, especially yung mga ducks na nag-come in contact sa wild birds. And itong mga ducks na to, yung mga free-ranging ducks will come in contact with commercial poultry, either in quails or layer farms. Kaya to prevent future bird flu outbreaks, we have to help and provide technical assistance and support sa duck sector. Otherwise, after this outbreak, kung makontrol natin, ay highly likely na magkaka-problem ulit tayo in the future if we will not do something pagdating sa ating mga duck farmers. No? Then due to commingling with wild birds and free-ranging ducks, ang ating mga predators like raptors and crows ay nai-infect, as well as yung ating mga cosmopolitan birds. In Europe and US, so they can detect bird flu in house sparrows. In Indonesia, nakaka-detect sila ng H9 sa cattle egrets, but for this current H5N1 strain, no, the role of cattle egrets ay hindi pa clear. But nonetheless, we have to be very careful with these birds. And as mentioned, HPA outbreaks come in waves. And since 1996, there have been 5 notable HPA outbreaks. And take note, based on mathematics, no? A big HPA outbreak normally happens every 3 to 5 years. And every time period, may ibang strain na nai-involve. No? So again, the reason has something to do with wild bird migration. So the first time that H5N1 spread and devastated Southeast Asia during the Asian HPA episodic, it took around 3 years in duration. So why 3 to 5 years? Again, maraming reason, but based on mathematical modeling, again, no, several assumptions such as the one presented here, in a do-nothing scenario, and we will just let the virus behave normally. Under a disease-free or endemic scenario, a major outbreak will normally range from 1,000 to 1,500 days. And after nun, naturally, mag-stop siya, no? Because na-infect na lahat ng manok. And 1,000 to 1,500 days is around 3 to 5 years. Medyo magic na nag-align yung mga numbers, pero that's the wonder of mathematics, especially biomathematics. And they can be used, assuming tama yung mga data, to predict an outbreak. And last but not the least, given all the data that was presented, we should always prepare for the possibility of a prolonged outbreak. Although government agencies, LGUs, and stakeholders are doing all their best to control the outbreak, medyo matindi talaga itong circulating na H5N1 na ito. In the US, na napakaganda ng biosecurity, take note, 45 out of 50 states got infected. In Europe, na maganda din ang biosecurity, they had the worst outbreak in their history, this 2021 and 2022. So to survive in these difficult times, we have to prepare our operations for a possibility of a second wave, third wave, and so on. And there might also come a point in time when disease control, especially yung movement restriction, will result to huge economic losses because of the disruptions on supply chain due to LGU lockdowns and trade restrictions. No? So there are good models that are available to balance disease control and business continuity, such as the secure poultry supply of the USDA and these universities. So the stakeholders should explore the possible creation of similar programs to ensure the continuity of business under a prolonged AI scenario. In summary, based on the global distribution of HPI outbreaks, generally, it is not unlikely, no? So as we can see in this picture, it is not unlikely that AIB will be here to stay. So, inihintay lang natin, no? So either it will stay like this one, na may sporadic outbreaks during migration season that can be contained, or it will stay here in an endemic situation, especially in areas with high duck population. No? So of course, ito yung gusto natin, but we have to be ready in case maging endemic siya sa areas na mataas ang ating duck population. So as such, at this early period in time, we need to learn on how to adapt and live with the virus. So we have to beef up our biosecurity and start studying how to compartmentalize our operations. Not only the government, no, but our farmers should strengthen their internal diagnostic capabilities so that rapid response can be implemented in case may outbreak sa operations. And as a whole, the industry should find ways on how to secure the supply chain and promote continuity of business plan under an environment with prolonged HPI cases. That's all, and thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much sa tanan nga nagpalamati, no? So before I proceed, I would like to welcome also the President of Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners, si Doc Esme San Pedro. Doc, thank you sa time na binigay niyo po sa amin dito na at least nandito kayo ngayon. So we really appreciate. Thank you din sa ating kay Doc Ramil, naka-monitor din siya. So Doc, thank you. And of course, our Provincial Veterinary Office, the Provincial Integrated Laboratory Office, nandyan. So siguro open na tayo for question and answer kung may mga clarification ang audience natin. So the table now is open. Kung mayroon tayong mga tanong or may mga pamangkot. Kung hindi tama ka Tagalog, sige lang ako na mag-interpret para masabat sa aton nga mga guest kag speaker ang aton mga pamangkot. So any question?
Question?
Good morning po. Good morning po sa lahat at maraming salamat din po sa inyong pakikinig at sa chance po namin na makapag-share din po dito ng ating knowledge and experience po sa pagdating po sa game po. So kung may mga questions po ang ating pong mga nasa Zoom ay willing po tayo na sumagot sa abot ng ating makakaya. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, so anybody na gustong magtanong?
Pwede.
Sure, sir.
Sure po.
Please, kung may pamangkot please identify ourselves para babalaan ta kung dinalin ang tanong kag ma-address kag kung sino gusto mo nga pamangkoton. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ang pamangkot is para kay Dr. Shenley. Imoya.
Okay, so Doc Shenley, si Doc Shenley ba ang sa Provincial Veterinary Office nga naka-tune in subong? Or anybody? Si Doc Ryan, ara man siguro. So Doc Ray?
Okay,
Sige,
okay.
sir.
Possible. Question lang. Ano ang ato nimo na sa chickens nga magsulod diri sa aton sa probinsya from Luzon nga gina-quarantine lang nila sa Iloilo, because I am expecting nga may maabot din nga mga ready to lay pullets nga iya ka DA man na siya, and I know halin siya sa Luzon. Ang hambal is i-quarantine pa siya kuno sa Iloilo before siya magsulod diri sa aton. I don't think ano ang aton proper procedure sina, considering halin sa Luzon ang manok nga makadto di sa Negros. And anybody kung ano ang, can we allow it or just sudlon na lang sila because of naka-quarantine na, kaya may araman ta protocol nga hindi pwede kasulod ang manok halin sa Luzon.
Okay, so thank you, Doc. Thank you sa question, Doc. So, amo na siya anybody from Provincial Veterinary Office? Doc Shinley, ara ka? Or Doc Ryan?
Yes, Doc. Ari ko, Doc.
Okay. So, thank you.
Oo. Sa ano naman, kay Doc Rabang, good morning.
Good morning, Doc.
When it comes naman sa poultry products, ang nga live, since banned siya gani sa atong diri, pero amo tong habal mo if ever magkadto siya di sa Panay, halin siya sa Luzon, kay since accepted man siya dito sa Panaya, or dapat ma-quarantine siya dito na hindi magnubo sa 15 days. So, after 15 days, makuha siya sang pwede gid siya kasulod diri sa aton basta mapa-test siya liwat. Sad nga dra gid halin kung diin siya quarantine or naging siya da bala anay, gin contain siya da anay nga area. Tapos, kuhaan niya, tanang gid, shipping permit, BHC, dra gid na naka-address sa Panay kung diin siya nag-quarantine. Tapos, pwede na siya di kasulod sa Negros after that.
Actually, hindi siya, program niya sa balik probinsya. Balik probinsya po nila. May mga beneficiary sa cottage nga ilatagaan sina. I don't know lang kung ang region man ang mag-quarantine sina. So, do they need to have it again have a negative result sa birds flu, sa swabbing? Doc?
Yes, Doc. Yes, Doc, kinahanglan gid siya liwat, Doc. Negative naman nga AI test. Dra gid ya mismo, separate na siya lain ang sa tong source of atong dito gid sa iyang origin gid ya.
Okay.
So sa swabbing, actually, Doc, ang gid gina-require gid naton kung dahil man sa Panay, pwede lang japon siya rat test or ELISA.
Okay, sige, Doc. Thank you.
Okay, Doc.
Okay, so thank you, Doc Shinli. So Doc, kabay pa nga nasabat ni Doc Shinli ang iyong mga inquiry. So any questions pa, clarifications? May mga pamangkot pa da? May pa gusto mag-questions, mag-raise ang ano? Any question? Daw ano na no, daw so far ang iban siguro nakapamati naman or gutom na. So kung wala na ta pamangkot siguro mangayo ta siguro hingi naman siguro kami ng konting statement, especially kay Doc Esme at saka kay Doc Ramil. So Dr. San Pedro, can we hear some message sa iyo coming from ano PCPP? Yun.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. At maraming salamat, Doc Niel Ningal, for inviting PCPP to be a part of your activity. Rest assured na nandito lang ang Philippine College of Poultry Practitioner para tumulong at gumabay sa ating industriya ng pagmamamanukan dito sa Pilipinas. Kami rin po ay katulong ng Bureau of Animal Industry sa mga suliranin na ating kinakaharap ngayon, kagaya ng avian influenza, adenovirus, at ano pang nakakaapekto sa ating pagmamanukan. At kasama na rin din po dito ay nakukonsulta rin kami about sa movement restrictions ng AI. Hopefully ay matapos na po itong problema natin at tayo naman po ay bumalik na ang dating wala ng restriction sa Pilipinas kasi malaking epekto lalo na sa Visayas at Mindanao na some of the supply are coming from Luzon. At sa nangyayari ngayon na supply restriction sa PS layer ay mahirap. Ang nangyari po kasi ngayon ay ito yung pinaka-worst avian influenza outbreak na nangyari dito sa Pilipinas, nangyayari sa Europe sa ngayon, nangyayari sa Amerika, at wala pong exemption. Ito na po siguro ang hindi pa natin alam. Sa ngayon po ay may mga policy recommendation na kami sa BAI kung ano man ang magiging desisyon ng Bureau of Animal Industry sa paano makontrol ang avian influenza ay pinag-uusapan na po yan ngayon dito sa taas. At yan lang po. Ngayon naman po ang kwan po sa naikukuhan ko lang po sa inyo ay nag-ingat din po tayo talaga. Kagaya po ng sinabi ni Doc Ramil ay ang makakatulong sa atin ngayon ay biosecurity. Pagbutihin po natin ang ating biosecurity. Nagsisimula na naman po ang bird migration. Saan nanggagaling yung mga wild bird na yan na talagang nagdadala po ng sakit. At alam natin ang Negros Occidental ay isang malaking negosyo diyan ay yung mga game fowl natin. Ay mag-ingat po tayo talaga. Maikukwento ko lang po sa inyo. Somewhere in North Luzon ay nagkaroon ng kaso yung pugo. At dahil malapit yung puguan sa game farm, ay nadama yung game farm. So ubos yung game farm siguro. Mahina po ang maybe 40 million, 50 million pesos sa nangyari na yun. So ingat po talaga tayo. Wala pong exemption ang sakit na to at talaga pong devastating po siya. Yun lang po at kami po naman ay nagsumikap din na ay maihatid ang ating produktong manok sa ating hapag na malinis, safe, at sana po ay maging affordable pa in the future. Maraming pong salamat.
Okay, so thank you, Doc, sa message. So really appreciate talaga yung tulong ng PCPP na kahit papano, kahit sa maikling span of time, pinagbigyan nyo ako. So sana sa mga susunod pa na mga activities ng Negros Occidental Food Security, hoping na kaagapay at kasama pa din natin yung Philippine College of Poultry Practitioner. Really appreciate, Doc. So ngayon, let's proceed naman din siguro sa kay Doc Ramil di Makulangan, kasi ito naman sila is may specialize nila talaga dito yung panabong. So alam naman natin, we have around 3 billion ang ato negosyo diri sa Negros Occidental. Kung hambalon nila yung parte sa aton pagpanabong, Negros ang numero 1 sina. So siguro pamatian taman ang statement. So let's hear some message from Doc Ramil di Makulangan. Sir, Doc.
Opo, Doc Neil, salamat din po sa opportunity na na-invite po kami dito, especially yung team po natin sa Excellence. Good morning po din sa ating PCPP President, si Doc Esme. At sa lahat pong mga nanonood po at nakasubaybay po dito. Well, tama po kayo. In fact, yung cases po ng bird flu sa game fowl very limited. In fact, sa North Luzon lang po nagkaroon yan ng reported cases. But ang pinakamalaki pong effect nito sa industriya ng nitong industriya ng game fowl is the travel restriction. So sa ngayon po ay talagang yung Luzon to Visayas and Mindanao umiiyak na po yung mga breeders dito dahil po sa sabihin natin talaga na napakalaki ng ibinaba ng kanilang sales sa kanilang manok, which is kahit naman po ang tunay na buyer po talaga nasa Luzon. Bumibili po yan sa Visayas and Mindanao, pero yung mga malalaki na rin pong breeder sa Luzon ay may mga client din po yan sa Visayas and Mindanao at sila po ang higit na naapektuhan. So how much more kung ang papasok naman yan dito sa region po natin, magkakaroon din po kayo ng travel restriction papunta naman sa iba't ibang lugar. So yung kung sinabi natin kanina na business ng Negros Occidental alone, yan po yung pwedeng mawala. At definitely kung walang benta, walang transport, hindi na rin po sila magpo-produce muna ng manok dahil ang apakamahal po ng feeds sa ngayon. So kung tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aalaga nila at hindi lumalabas yung manok sa farm, definitely sapahinto po yung industriya ng game fowl. At ngayon naman, napakaganda naman po nang nangyayari dahil very active na po ulit yung industriya. Madami maganda na yung market ng Negros. So sana po maingatan natin yung pagpasok ng sakit na ito sa ating probinsya. Mapagtulong-tulungan natin yan. At katuwang nyo po yung team po ng Excellence kasi kami po may mga tao din po kami sa field na handa naman po mag-offer ng libreng consultation and visit sa inyong mga kababayan dyan sa Negros para po makatulong sa mas mabilis na diagnosis kung ano man yung mga problema aside from avian flu. So sa mga nanonood din po nationwide, kung mayroon pong access sa social media dito sa ating show, ay kami po ang team po ng Excellence. Sa pamumuno po ni Doc Ayong Lorenzo, isa rin pong veterinaryo, ang may-ari po ng ating company, ay talaga pong overall support sa industriya ng game fowl nationwide. Nagbibigay po kami ng libreng consultation and visit po sa ating mga kasabong ika nga. So yun lang po at open po ang ating linya. Anytime po na mayroon po kayong hinging assistance o kung ano man yung may offer po namin. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, so thank you Doc Ramil. So thank you din sa lahat. So sana makarating kay Boss Ayong yung aming pasasalamat. So and looking forward na pagdating ng araw baka dahil nga sa laki ng industriya ng pagsasabungan dito sa Negros Occidental, baka one of these days itap ta din itap ko din si Boss Ayong. So, Doc Ramil, thank you ng madami. So, meron pa ba tayong mga tanong pa? So, kung wala na din tayong tanong, so gusto ko na mapasalamat sa lahat ng mga LGUs, the Provincial Veterinary Office, at the same time doon sa ating mga districts, veterinarian at saka municipal agriculturist. So, thank you for this ABANSE Negrense Tribes Towards Food Security. This is an avian influenza prevention series. So, this is brought to you by Pagkaon Negrosanon in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture Region 6, Provincial Veterinary Office, Public Information Office, Information and Communication Technology Department. So thank you kasi nandito tayo ngayon. Sila ang nagabulig diri sa aton in terms sa mga technical side. So of course, kapasalamat din tayo sa Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners. So Doc Smith, thank you, and all the rest of the team. And of course, sa Radyo Negrense, naka-livestream kita sa dalawang radio station, Radyo Negrense and Radyo Muscovado Sweet FM. And of course, sa buong Federation ng Negrense Farms, and of course with the partnership with Ariela Marketing and Excellence Poultry and Livestock Specialist. So thank you ng marami sa lahat. So kung meron tayong, kung may mga pamangkot pa kamo, base makita nyo man ini is live, pwede nyo siya ma-share, bisan tapos ani kay na-record man siya sa aton nga page. So pwede nyo ni siya ma-share sa inyo nga mga group nga para gusto makabalo pagid kung ano ang natuhay sini sa regarding sa aton nga bird flu nga issue. Kag kung may mga pamangkot, open ang send a message sa Pagkaon Negrosanon. So Pagkaon Negrosanon is battle cry sang food security of Negros Occidental. So para sa lahat, so maraming salamat sa ating mga Tagalog friends na nag-support dito. Sa aton mga kasimanwa nga mga Negrense, madamo gid nga salamat sa tanan kag ABANSE Negrense. Thank you.